6-shot MA here with a couple of Smith and Wesson 686s. This one being a -4 and this is a -6. But the basis or premise of this video being, pretty much some information nobody asked for and changes over the years with the dashes and kind of what each dash means within the Smith and Wesson 686 line. So obviously, the Smith and Wesson 686 was introduced kind of as a competitor to the Colt Python, that being with a similar frame size to the Colt Pythons, the full underlug, and just kind of how the sighting system is. And obviously the caliber being 38 Special 357 Magnum. So in 1980, the Smith and Wesson No Dash was introduced. And of course, that one was perfect from the factory, right? Well, no, of course, just like with any gun or really anything, cars over the years, you find problems within the mechanical aspects and you fix them, you make them stronger or more value-minded or what have you. So 1980 being the original No Dash, and then the 686-1 came out in 1986. The hand was modified that turns the cylinder to eliminate trigger kickback, and other parts were radiused, meaning, if you have a square edge like this, you take some material off the edges so it's not entirely square, so parts weren't locking up within the gun. I believe that it was a radius stud, and like I said, the floating hand. There was also a stamped M. If you sent your, in 1987, if you sent your Smith & Wesson back for the factory recall or warranty, you'd get stamped an M. And I can't really find much information about what they did for that, but it only relates to the No Dash and the 686-1. And then in 1987, the 686-2 came out, and they changed the actual... This firearm is clear here. They changed the actual hammer nose here. And as well as the hammer bushing and other parts that went along with the hammer. That was changed. I believe that the changes were due to the gun locking up for some reason under heavy 357 Magnum loads. Sometimes I think it was kind of a rare issue, but regardless, it was enough to kind of redesign and change the parts within it. So that takes us to the Smith & Wesson 686-3, which was in 1988. They had a new yoke retention system. That was no longer hand-fritted, and they introduced some spring-loaded screws into the yoke screw and other things to make the fitting better, and also hardened some parts as well. And a few years later, still with the 686-3 in 1990, the new 2.5-inch barrel was introduced, which both of these are the 2.5-inch barrel here. And like I said, this being a -4 and this being a -6. So the 686-4 came in 1993. They changed the rear sight leaf. I know that these used to be more squared, the end of it here. So this was squared. This now is circular here at the end. Let me get my fat fingers out of the way. It was drill and tapped for scope mounts. What else did they do on the -4? Or the drilled and tapped frame for the scope mount. It had a new extractor style, and there were no longer came factory with wood stocks. They actually came with the Hogue grips, which I touched on at the beginning of the video. So that actually, and also during the -4 iteration in 1995, they introduced a power port barrel, which I believe was in 6-inch versions. As well as the 7-shot cylinder. and the round butt frame. This one being a round butt still with the 6-shot. There's a new style extractor I just mentioned as well. This one being a 6-shot, 686-4, which, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but this one's more of a safe queen for me. I shoot this one quite a bit, so I take care of this one and don't shoot it as much, but seeing as it's a safe queen and not a shooter for me, I actually do like the 6-shot cylinder a touch more. It has more meat on it, and it's kind of more traditionalist of me, but this one, going to show the change. This one is actually a 7-shot. This is a 686 plus. So there you have that. Like I said, it went from 6 to 7 in certain of them. And like, it's not with every gun. As you can see, this one still has 6-shot. Not, if they had parts laying around, they used them. When they ran out of parts, they would, go fully to the new, the changes that they were making at the time and use the new design features. So, where are we at now? And like I said, they introduced the round butt frame. And in 1996, the square butt goes away entirely, and all the ones afterwards would be round butts. And the guns also came in the new style Smith and Wesson blue plastic cases, which I'm sure many of you are aware of if you've bought in a Smith in the past, what would that be, 25 some odd years. And in 1997, they introduced a new cylinder release, which would be this tapered cylinder style. So this leads me to believe that this one might be a 1997, which is weird because it's still 6-shot. It is a round butt, but it has the new tapered release. So like I said, some of the parts are mixed match. Just because you have a certain dash doesn't necessarily mean you will have all the changes that I'm noting at the given time. They kind of, as time goes on and that dash gets older, that dash model, you will start to see more and more of them with being all similar with all the changes incorporated. That leads me to the 686-5, which also came out in 1997. This is where the value-minded stuff starts coming in with Smith. They have the new frame design, which eliminates the cylinder stop stud. They eliminate the serrated tangs, being here, the back and front by the grip. You'll see that on this one, no longer serrated. They had MIM parts for the hammer and trigger being the most obvious. There are some internal parts. See, so before I say that, this is obviously a forged hammer, forged trigger. This being a MIM hammer and MIM trigger, as well as some internal parts that were previously forged turned to MIM, which is metal injection molding, if you're not sure about what that means. That also introduced the floating firing pin, which I believe was also now frame mounted. And it had changes to the internal lock work, and the Dash 5s also shipped with a master lock trigger lock. That leads us to this iteration, the Smith and Wesson 686-6, which came out in 2001. Now it has the frame-mounted hammer. Both these firearms are safe. So as you can see, there's no longer the hammer-mounted firing pin. Or I should say frame-mounted firing pin. Not frame-mounted hammer, but... And as you can see, as this older model actually has the firing pin mounted right there on the hammer, which is definitely a feature that I like and a lot of other collectors do enjoy about the older Smiths, as well as this, which I will get to here in a second. And it introduced this new key lock, aka the Hillary hole. The Smith and Wesson company struck a deal with the Clinton Foundation and it has to do with gun safety. I won't devolve too much into that, but this allows you to lock the trigger, and that can or cannot be, depending on who you ask, a total deal breaker for people. Some people will absolutely not buy Smith and Wesson's past 2000 or 2001, I believe, where they introduced this, which I understand. It's ugly, and who uses a trigger lock anyways? In all reality, go buy yourself a safe or find a way to transport it without having to use that. I have heard of these malfunctioning and locking up on people in ways that they don't want. Regardless, not to get into that, but change here, change here. And those being all the major and final changes to the gun. The Smith and Wesson 686 is still in production as far as I know, but they also do have a -7, which I'd like to mention, that came out in 2002. But there was only 250 made, as I understand, and it was a Performance Center 686-7 in 38 Super. And like I said, I believe there was only 250 made. So if anyone has one of those, definitely let me know, because I don't even think I've ever laid eyes on one of them. And yeah, so that's kind of the history and the changes to the 686 over the years with the dashes and kind of what they mean. So this is where the video gets a little bit more informal, and I'm just going to talk about what I like about the gun. I love carrying my 686, this one in particular. This one I do not carry. I do not really shoot it. I have shot it, but I like to keep this one nice just because it got I wouldn't say high polish or mirror polish. I mean, let's see. Can you see my ugly mug? There I am. Slightly mirrored. I wouldn't say entirely mirror finish, but it being dirty right now. Sorry about the fingerprints. I don't ever touch this stuff with white gloves. I could care less. These are my firearms. I'll clean them up really, really nice if I want them to be, but, you know, I do take these out from time to time and just hold them and leave them on the desk to look at them and stuff, especially one like this. But this is easily one of my favorite firearms, probably top 3, maybe even top 2. Definitely top 2 in my revolver category. But like I said, when I purchased this firearm, I got a smoking deal on it, and it came with these grips. But since I was going to put it in the safe, and I actually like the usage of these grips, I put those grips on the one I actually shoot more, because I do like them. And I bought these Altamont, more classic panel style grips for it, because I believe it does look really good on there. One thing I wish I do had on this one, I'm not going to lie, I wish I had the old style cylinder release. I like the big circular ones. It's more ergonomic for me, and I think it looks a lot better, but no keyhole. Firing pin is hammer mounted. I really like that. And like I said, I do appreciate a 6-shot cylinder. Of course, 7 doesn't hurt. More rounds, it's never going to be a bad thing, but just as a traditionalist, and since I don't shoot it much, I really do appreciate that. Here you have the ramp sight with the red insert. And yeah, that's pretty much all I'll say about that one, to keep the video a little shorter, but I will talk about this one briefly. These grips, I believe, might be NC Ordnance. I do not believe these to be factory 686 grips. I think they might be some NC Ordnance. Fuck, I forget the name of them. I'm not even going to try. But here we are. Key lock. For a shooter, I don't much mind it. The MIM parts, whatever. This thing gets dirty all the time. I shoot it. 7-shot cylinder. And instead of the, what would you call it? You know, this non-painted looking black sight with the red insert. Here you have a steel, I don't know, steel colored, stainless, whatever, with the red insert. I feel like I do pick this one up a little bit better than this in general, but, you know, to each his own. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that so I don't make the video too long here. I absolutely love these firearms. If there's anything I missed or was incorrect about, feel free to correct me in the comment section. I know you guys are the keyboard warriors, so feel free. And I appreciate you guys watching my video. And stay tuned for more stuff. This is 6-Shot MA with the 686s. Out.